Hello and welcome to the On Farm podcast. It's Anna here with you this week, and a really exciting episode this week, not only because of its content, but because of what it represents. Now, this episode is part of a series that we are producing in association with RHASS, the Royal Highland and Agricultural Society of Scotland, as a celebration of their 240th anniversary. So they are running a 240 Years of Stories campaign throughout 2024, and this episode is one of those stories. We're going to be chatting to Catriona and Russell, who are a brother and sister, aged 25 and 21, and they are both involved in the family farm near Peebles.
So I'm Russell Brown, live here at Bonnington Farm and work here full time alongside my mother and father and my sister part time.
Apparently so. I'm Catriona Brown, also live here, but I leave some of the time. So I work for RHASS. I'm part of the livestock and competitions team. Very busy time of year at the moment. We're on the run up to the show, which is very exciting. So they're not seeing very much of me at home, but I like to dip in and out as and when, really.
Come in and supervise and make sure they're doing
Pretty
things
much.
right, and then leave again and go back to work. I like the sound of that. So we're going to talk in a minute about this diversification, but as people can hear, we are standing outside a hen shed. They like us. They obviously know where their food comes from because they're coming right up to us and swarming around us. But you've got three, that you can see anyway, three hen sheds in this beautiful valley near Peebles. It's just part of a number of different enterprises on Bonnington Farm. So Russell, maybe tell us a bit to start off with, if you don't mind. Why are we surrounded by hens? How did that all come about?
So 20 years ago, just after me and Catriona were born, Mum and Dad diversified the farm and they decided they changed the farm to an organic farm and went down poultry. So we got 3 hen sheds all within quick succession, probably within about 3 years of each other. And then we had them for about 17, 18 years, all 3 of them. And then just this last year, we've actually bought another 2 hen sheds as well. So we've now got 10,000 hens on the farm, and it's just a diversification that allows us to basically make a small farm profitable, allow a whole family to work on a small farm and work together.
And it was obvious, we were your mum and dad have not keen to speak on the podcast, but I was chatting to them when I arrived, and it's really obvious that, you are a close family, that you kind of all sing from the same song sheet, I think, that, you want to keep this farm going, but it needs to be profitable, carry it on, but also seems like you're doing something that you enjoy as well.
Yeah, I think it's probably the way me and Catriona have been brought up. Obviously, Mum and Dad have had to diversify to allow them both to work here and allow other people to work here. So I think just for our whole childhood, the farm's always been this way, and that's all we've really known. And the way they've brought us up is to maybe not be just your traditional farmer and try things and have a go at things and see how they work and try something different.
Yeah. If you're tempted to turn the volume down, please don't, because we know that 35 minutes of hens is perhaps a bit much for anybody. So we're going to move away and take you somewhere a little bit quieter, or at least different. So we're back in the pickup. We're going to take you away from the chicken noise and head somewhere else. I think there's a field with cattle and sheep, so we're going to go up there and continue our chat. We've come here to record in the evening. It's a Thursday evening that we're recording, and it's actually a really lovely evening to be outside. So we thought, rather than sitting indoors to record this, we'll get out and about and give you some proper farm noises. So, slightly more peaceful location, and maybe it suits you, Catriona, because I know that you said to us earlier that the hens are maybe not your absolute favourite part of the business. So tell us a bit more about what else happens here apart from those productive new hen sheds.
So we also have beef and sheep, which is kind of what traditionally was farmed here at Bonnington. We've scaled back slightly on how many we have, but we've lambed about 400 ewes this year, and we've got about 50 or 60 hogs running. So we've mainly got mules and Texel crosses. We also have about 50 suckler cows, so most of them are a cross of sort of Aberdeen Angus, bit of Hereford in there. And recently the field that we're currently looking into is pedigree Aberdeen Anguses, so this is mine and Russell's sort of little venture. We were left some money by both of our grannies actually to buy some heifers, so this is our purchases that we're looking at.
So it's a bit of a joint venture, siblings joint venture.
Yeah.
Brilliant. How did you decide what you were going to do as that joint venture? Because there must have been a lot of options.
There's never really a discussion, to be fair.
There was a discussion.
Catriona wanted Highland cattle, I said no, and we bought Angus's. It was about the just of it. But
nothing was purchased for about 3 years because I wanted a Highland cow and I was told no and that it wasn't very practical, and so eventually I had to compromise.
You didn't even get one?
No.
Oh dear. Well, mind you, not that I'm an expert, but these look pretty good. That bull there, he looks like he's happy and he looks like he's in amazing condition. So hopefully you're happy with the final decision, are you?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's kind of what you get involved with at the weekends then when you come back here. It doesn't sound like you have very much downtime. You're either at Ingleston or you're here getting your hands dirty.
Yeah, I think this time of year it's one or the other. So we've just finished lambing not that long ago, calving, and there's always eggs to do. I sadly seem to get involved in quite a lot of egg packing at the weekends. That's kind of a constant activity for all of us. It's nice to come home to it and to have it to come home to and be involved with, but also be able to leave and have another job that I'm very, very deep into at the moment.
It seems very obvious to me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems very obvious that, you know, you're both here and you're involved in the farm because it's absolutely what you want to be doing. Nobody has at any point twisted your arm or tried to persuade you or anything like that. You know, you can tell by your enthusiasm that you really want to be here. So obviously that passion has come down through the generations. And when I spoke to your dad earlier, he said that it was 1876 or possibly 78 that your family moved here, and somebody in each generation has been passionate about farming ever since. So what can you remember about, you know, when you were a child or your grandparents and how that whole farming passion kind of filtered down as far as you guys?
I don't really know. We've just always been here, and I think there's always been a lot going on, and we've always been involved. I mean, lambing time, so our gran lived on the farm, and so lambing time we were always out just checking sheep and driving around fields and stuff, and I don't know, it's just one of those things that's always been there, and we've always kind of neither of us have ever been pushed into it at all. And Mum and Dad were very clear that if you don't want to do it, don't do it, because you're either in or you're out. And neither of us have been pushed into it. We've kind of both gone away, done other things, both been to uni, and I've definitely decided that it's what I want to do. And then Catriona's obviously still passionate about agriculture. She's here a lot of the time, and I think it's just what we enjoy.
Yeah, and I think it's, you know, we all know that it's not a job that you should or could do unless you really want to be doing it, because it's tough and it's hard work. But it's evident that, you know, your passion has come through from your dad and your mum, because your mum's from a farming family as well, isn't she? Mm-hmm. And that they are, as you said, they're not pushing anything, but somehow their enthusiasm has filtered through, and you've got the bug too. So something that I often wonder, but I suppose it's particularly relevant here because I've met your mum and dad. They both work on the farm. You've got another family member that works on the farm. So that's a lot of people in the same family running a business. How do you do it? What are the tricks of the trade to be a family that gets on well, but also a family that runs a business well?
Hard work. We all work hard. Everyone works hard. And I think sometimes we all need to remember that maybe if we fall out or disagree on something, that everyone is working hard and we maybe just have slightly different ideas at times, but I think fundamentally we're all going in the same direction. Most of the time we maybe just have different ways of getting there, and I think if we argue we just sort it out and get on with it and don't really hold grudges, do maybe just try and get on with it. There's not really an option.
Yeah, we'd definitely be lying if we said we didn't fall out. There's lots of arguments go on, lots of shouting, but nobody does hold a grudge at the end of the day, and we we've all got similar ideas, similar interests. I think we're lucky that we all want the farm to go in a similar direction. And we've also been lucky that Mum and Dad, from a young age, Mum and Dad have had us really involved, and we've been part of lots of decision making, and it's not been their business that they're driving forward, it's been our business that we've all worked on together.
Yeah, I think very admirable. And as you say, everybody works hard, and if you have an appreciation of that, and appreciation that you're going to the same place but the journey might be different, slightly different, that seems like a really good way of looking at it. Yeah. Russell, you said something interesting to me earlier, and that was that you wondered if maybe some people in the area thought your dad was a bit crazy when he first got hens. He was obviously not afraid to be innovative and to diversify, but that we still see traditional elements of farming at the same time. How do you feel about that in terms of responsibility to stay the same, or even responsibility to be different? What goes on in your mind when you think about the future?
I wouldn't say I feel any pressure from Mum and Dad. I'd say the last 2 hen sheds we bought were probably more motivated by me than anyone. But I think in terms of keeping it traditional, I don't feel any pressure at all. I think if I wanted to try something, everyone would have their input and everyone would tell me what they thought, and if we agreed it as a family, we would try it. And I don't think anybody feels the need to keep traditional beef and cattle, beef and sheep, and just do things how we've always done them. That's not how Mum and Dad have farmed, and it's not really how we've grown up with farming. We've always done different things, and we've both got friends that are farmers, and compared to them, we've both done totally different things. And I think just the way we've both been brought up, there's no pressure at all to do anything. If we want to change something, we will try it, and if we don't, we won't.
And I think it's maybe shaped how we've been brought up slightly. Both of our grandpas died when I was under 1, so a long time ago now. So Mum and Dad have both been without a dad. Dad's been farming here. His mum was here, but wasn't actively involved in the farm. So I think probably us all being here and farming together, he really values that.
Yeah, I bet he does. Yeah.
So since a young age, we've both been very involved. We've been involved. We've known what's going on, whether we necessarily had an input when we were younger or not. Maybe not so much, but especially the last couple of years since probably Catriona left uni and I've been at uni, we've both had a big impact on the farm, and they've basically said to us they're not going to push things forward if we're not interested, because they don't want to, but if we're interested, they're happy to help us push, and it's kind of where we're going.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose, speaking of which, it's kind of similar with the Royal Highland Society and with RHET, the Royal Highland Education Trust. You mentioned earlier that your dad's involved in that, and that now you run open days here. Russell, tell me a bit more about that. Did you have your arm twisted for that, or is that another voluntary thing? And do you enjoy it? Is probably the key question.
That was maybe a wee bit more arm twisting to get me to talk to people, but
children in particular.
Yeah. No, I think Dad's always kind of done it. So when I was in P3, we came here on a school visit. So I came here on a school visit and came home with my P3 class, and. Wow. So they've kind of always done visits and stuff, and then recently Dad's got more involved with RHET, and he's taken over Border RHET and he's become the chairman. And I think just with that, we do quite a lot of visits for beaver groups, people like that from Peebles, and we kind of just all get involved. I'll kind of do my bit, and Mum and Dad will do their bit, Catriona will do her bit, and we all talk about something different, because we've all got kind of slightly different interests within the farm. So it's one of those things that we've done for a long time, and it's good, and it's nice, and it's nice to see people going away happy, and I think it's also good to teach people about where their food comes from.
Well, totally. That was kind of my next question, because again, we were talking earlier on about how, in life it's easy to take the easy option, and having farm visits here is not the easy option, but it's the option that you've chosen and the option you do, because you must, both of you, all of you, see the huge value in that. Why do you think, Catriona, it's so important that we get kids onto farms?
I think we watch the kids come out here and they're amazed, especially the egg side of it. They come into our egg grading shed and they're just absolutely mesmerised. They could watch the grader all day. And it's that realisation that, when I go to the supermarket and buy a box of eggs, this is what has happened to them previously. So I think as farmers, if we aren't prepared to do that, then we can't really be expecting people to buy our produce, can we? And I just think it's really important to be out there, to be educating the younger generation, because if they're not educated at that age, then when are they going to learn a lot of it, really? We often find that with farm visits, you'll get the teachers or the parent helpers, and they're like, wow, I didn't know that. So
they will ask the most questions, and they have the least knowledge a lot of the time.
Yeah, they go away learning the most, hopefully. But if they're teachers, that must be a satisfying feeling that actually you've helped teachers to have a bit of a better understanding of what goes on, because they're the ones that are in control often of these young and impressionable minds. And
I think if you're gonna teach anyone, you have to teach children. You can't you can't change adults' minds, but if you want to teach people stuff, the best people to teach is children, especially like primary school children. And I think something like a farm visit, you can easily engage children, because you can show them machinery, you can show them sheep, you can show them cows, but they also learn a lot without realising they're learning a lot, because they're not sitting at a desk. And I think that's where a lot of benefit comes from it.
And I think that many of them talk about their visits for weeks or months afterwards, because, like you say, it's stuck in their head much more than a geography lesson in the classroom or a maths lesson inside, and so much more to absorb and to remember. I suppose that kind of leads me in a bit, Catriona. You have, I know you work incredibly hard, but at the same time, you've kind of got the best of both worlds, because you get to come here and get involved in the farm at weekends, but then during the week, as you said, at the moment, you're flat out preparing for the Highland Show. What was it that made you think, actually, RHASS is either somewhere or something that I'd like to get involved with in terms of a career and a job?
I think it comes back to everything we've already talked about, and sort of the way we've been brought up, and always sort of been involved in the agricultural community and educating people. And I mean, that is what RHASS is there to do. It's educating people on the countryside and on agriculture in Scotland and the UK. And I think, I find it hugely rewarding. So I'm obviously in the livestock and competition side of it. So we're working to showcase Scottish agriculture in the best possible way. And I really enjoy that. And I think it's kind of what we do here. It's a slightly different way. It's not the same as doing a vet school visit or actually physically being at home farming, but it's an important part of it, I think.
And obviously there's so much to RHASS over and above the Highland Show, but I guess the Highland Show is what you're preparing for at the moment, and it's kind of like RHET on steroids, isn't it? It's a massive opportunity for so many tens, hundreds of thousands of people to leave their daily life and go and learn a bit more and appreciate a bit more about what farming is like and what machinery is like and livestock, and even the other things like cheese making and crafts and everything that's kind of associated with the countryside and farming, and that must make you really proud to be involved in an event like that and play such a huge part in it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important to so many people in so many different ways, and I think just being part of that is really special.
And I guess it's kind of a bit like the farming, in that the history has kind of helped you to feel so passionate about the farm. Oh, excellent. Right on cue. But what about the RHASS side of things? What part has family and the kind of the history and the involvement with RHASS, what part has that played as far as your involvement, on continuing basis?
Yeah, I mean, RHASS has been part of our family history for much further back than I know anything about. My grandparents were all members, my great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents. Dad quite recently has just found his certificate that he got when he became a life member when he was about 40 odd years ago. And I think it's always been an important event in the calendar. It's always been something that every day is looked forward to. And I know when we were kids, it was sort of a day out when you're going to the Highland Show. And probably had I not have had that connection from a young age, I wouldn't have ended up working there when I started working there, and I probably wouldn't still be there now.
Given this kind of family connection and your career connection, I think it would probably be remiss of us if we didn't talk about young people. We've talked about children and RHET, and we've talked about, your dad and his membership. But what about kind of the younger generation, people like you in their 20s? We know that they go to the Highland Show for a good time. Everyone's giving a wry smile. But how can we even better engage them with RHASS and with all that RHASS stands for, RHET included? How do we get young people more involved?
I think it's definitely about just grasping the opportunities. There's so many opportunities out there for volunteering with RHET, getting involved in farm visits or helping out in their Discovery Centre at the Highland Show. There's endless options, and I think specifically looking at the show, it's the same. There's so many options that people potentially aren't aware about. We've got hundreds of volunteer stewards, and we predominantly, they're probably are older, but we have got younger people that are getting involved, which is great. And the staff team is quite young at the moment, so it's great for us seeing younger volunteers coming through. And yeah, I think there's the idea of the Highland Show being social, but there's also the other side to it where you can be involved in a huge number of things. And yeah, it maybe means you don't feel so great at the end of the week if you try to do them all, but you can do it all. You can socialise and you can work, I promise.
Russell, you're shaking your head. Is that because you're a pure socialiser?
I'm not so sure about the working at the Highland Show. They did try and twist my arm to help in the sheep pens behind the shearing tent, but I'm not sure.
Not this year. But I kind of stepping back a bit though. You love going to the Highland Show, and you were smiling when we were talking about it. You've obviously been many times. But what is it about what the show represents that makes you keep going back?
I don't know. I think it's a chance to see people you don't see very often, and it's good. You see all the livestock. You see good livestock, and I like to go and look around the cattle lines, look around the sheep lines, see what's going about, see who's got good stock, judge it for myself, and I don't know. I think it's a good social, isn't it?
When people talk about RHASS, before too long, the conversation always comes back to the Highland Show, because everybody knows the Highland Show and everybody goes to the Highland Show and they have fun, etc., etc. But tell us a bit more. We've talked about RHET. Tell us a bit more about some of the other things that RHASS does that perhaps not everybody listening to this will necessarily know about.
So alongside running the Highland Show, there's a lot of other sort of things going on at RHASS the whole time, and I think some that maybe general public aren't seeing unless you've been really involved in them. One of the sort of big things is the funding that they put into other projects. So they help to fund programmes like Farm Strong, some money into RSABI, and there's also a lot of grant funding. So they fund Nuffield scholarships. There's a local show engagement fund, which is about the smaller local shows. If they've got sort of a big project they want to work on, or something that they're looking for funding to get them going with, they can apply to that. And it's about spreading the work through the whole agricultural community, really. I think it just proves how much is going on and how active a charity RHASS currently is, and the sort of different legs of things that they're involved with.
Now, tell me to mind my own business or to shut up, but I want to ask you each the same question, and that is, when we're talking about the Highland Show and RHASS and RHET, what would you like to be doing, or where would you like to be in 10 or 15 years' time? Would you like to steal the chief exec's job, Catriona? Russell, would you like to be the next president? Tell us what your aspirations are.
That's a big question. Better watch what I say here, because who knows who might be listening. I think there's definitely, I can see there's a lot of opportunity at RHASS, and yeah, I don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon. There's so much that could be done, that we are doing, and sort of plans for the future that are pretty exciting.
And Russell, do you think your dad will twist your arm to be a future chairman of Borders RHET or something else? What do you think?
I think I'll probably be involved with it. I think farm visits and stuff are great. I think they're good for people, and I can see myself doing that kind of thing. More doing on-farm stuff than going into an office, I would say. But I can see myself still being involved, yeah.
I think that's a totally fair enough answer. I think, RHET, I'm a trustee of RHET, so that's why I keep mentioning it. Sorry to be repetitive, but, RHET couldn't operate if it wasn't for the farmers on the ground being willing to open up their farms to receive visitors. So, you don't need to be in the office, but you'd be just as valuable doing what you already do, which is giving people the opportunity to come out and learn more. And yeah, very commendable. I think your whole family is, hugely involved, and there isn't a lot of spare time kicking around when you're in agriculture, and so you manage to find it for really good causes, which I think is really impressive. So yeah, circling back then to what we started with, which was talking about the farm. Same question, in 10 or 15 years' time, Russell, I'm going to make you go first this time. What would you like to be doing or seeing or changing or growing here?
I think probably be fairly similar. I think there's already quite a lot going on. I think, there's going to have to be a transition at some point of who's in charge. I'm not really sure. We've not really worked that one out yet, but I think so. Things will probably be similar. I think more just a couple of smaller changes. I'd quite like to go down the more pedigree Angus route rather than having commercial cattle and do that kind of thing. But I don't think there'll be a massive amount of change. Potentially more hens, but not sure if Dad's on board with that one yet.
More hens. Katrina's going to love that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you? In 10, 15 years' time, would you still like to be involved here and packing eggs? Or anything else?
I mean, I'm not going anywhere right now. They're stuck with me for now. I think it depends how life carves out what I end up doing in the next 10 or 15 years. I think one thing we always have been very keen on, probably me and Mum more so than anybody, is some sort of farm shop. We've got an honesty egg hut at the end of our farm road that we sell eggs and sort of some local produce in, and we've looked sort of time to time at expanding that and whether we'd like to do something slightly bigger than that. So I think if I was to be at home involved in the farm, it would be down the sort of diversification route, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I won't name any names, but I was actually speaking to somebody the other week who has an honesty hut. Started out about the same size as yours, and I noticed on Facebook that they've just put another extension on it, so I think it's now about 3 times the size. And she was saying that the popularity in the local area is just unbelievable, and the number of cars that come up to come shopping, and I think she said somebody even came on Christmas Day. It was just the popularity has exploded, and that kind of shows, I think, that RHASS and RHET are doing the job that we all want them to do, and that is promoting Scottish produce and local produce and getting people to understand provenance and quality and traceability and all the things we talk about, and that therefore there is a market for all these amazing things that get sold in farm shops and honesty huts and everything else in rural areas. So I'd say go for it.
Yeah, I think it started off very small. It was literally an egg hut at the end of our road, and then it was a garden shed, and it's now a slightly bigger shed. And we realised sort of the popularity, especially during lockdown, it just absolutely spiralled. It was almost out of control. We're in a really good position. We're sort of a 20-minute walk out of Peebles, and it's a nice loop, and we get lots of people on Christmas Day. You see them out on their morning dog walk and they come in and get their half dozen eggs for breakfast or whatever. So it very much is 365 days a year. And I think the scale we have it on right now, that's the joy of it, is it's an honesty box and it can be like that. So yeah, it's looking at the options of if we scaled up and how we would do it.
Yeah, very interesting what you say about walkers, because even just standing here, this field gate, we've had at least, all ladies, interestingly, but we've had at least 3 ladies walking past. They're out and about getting their fresh air, and they may as well get eggs and honey and all sorts of things while they're here. So Catriona, Russell, thank you. We've had a great tour in the pickup and you've been open, honest, passionate, enthusiastic. You can't ask more than that for a podcast guest. So thank you very much for joining us and telling us more about the farm, but also more about your various roles within RHASS and your work for RHET. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, it's been great showing you around and having a chat.
What am I meant to add to that?
Get out now. I've had enough.
No, thanks. Thanks.
So there we go. Producer Dave and I had a really lovely evening with Catriona and Russell on the farm. We learnt loads and it's really great to see and hear from such enthusiastic and inspiring young people. So I hope that you enjoyed that. Please do listen out for future episodes in conjunction with RHASS. And of course, the Highland Show is imminent. So please do keep listening. We're going to be recording some live content at the Highland Show for a number of different episodes. So please do keep listening. Meantime, just another reminder that the On Farm podcast is brought to you by Scene&HerdPR and Marketing. So you can find out more about us if you wish on www.sceneandherdpr.co.uk. And if you don't already know, scene is spelt as in scenery and herd as in herd of cattle. So that's how you can find us. And we'll be back again with another podcast next week.